Do you suffer from lifestyle deficit disorder? The purpose of the Perfect Day podcast is to share simple steps and strategies as a powerful antidote to lifestyle deficit disorder. Listen in as I reveal a path away from disillusionment and dissatisfaction to a life of purpose, joy, and freedom, making every day a perfect day. Welcome to the Perfect Day podcast. We are live at Dig South. I am Koki Barini, your Perfect Day engineer, and I'm here to tell you that in a world filled with fear, scarcity, and perfectionism, that perfect days are far from being about perfect. And what's perfect about today is that we have multipreneur, I just made that name up, that word up, multipreneur Jamie Hough here today with us, who is one of my sort of recent new favorite people. Not only is he an amateur, you say amateur, but I don't think that's right. He's a chef.
Oh, untrained.
He is untrained. Those are better words. Untrained chef, pretty famous charter captain here in our area, and down in the Gulf area is where you do fishing tournaments, yes?
Yes, ma'am.
And also apparel entrepreneur. So your company is Redfish Mafia, and he is also growing his YouTube folks from his chefing, from his untrained chefing. And you can find him on YouTube at the Chef Redneck. Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
The Chef Redneck. I mean, okay, we got to start with that. Can we start with the Chef Redneck? I don't know if
Sure.
that offends you, because
No,
I
not at
know
all.
you're like the master angler, but let's start with the Chef Redneck
That's
if you don't
fine.
mind.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
I wanted the Redneck Chef, but somebody had already taken it. So why not go with the Chef Redneck?
You pivot. We've been
You gotta
talking about
pivot.
pivots all week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to change course.
Awesome. So where did your untrained love of cooking and chefing come from?
Well, I'm 6'6", 250, so I love to eat. And my dad told me a long time ago, if you're going to like to eat like this, you're going to have to learn how to cook like this.
You better
And,
get good.
So
Nice.
he was in the Navy, and he was a deck master on an aircraft carrier, and also a chef. And then after the Navy, he became a chef on Norwegian Cruise Lines. So my dad's always cooked. He still, to this day, I don't know whether they'll see this or not. He was just recently informed that he's got dementia. So one of the issues that they're having at home is that he's cooking a lot, because that's one of the things that he can't get out of his mind. He'll never forget how to do it. He just had a knee replacement solely so he can stand in the kitchen and cook.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's the thing. If he dies anytime soon, it'll be while he's cooking.
That's a story. And, it's been a thread that has been weaved throughout almost all of the podcasts this week at Dig South, which is interesting because when you think tech, you think new and innovative. And so some of the conversation we've been having have been of that in that area. But what's been common to all of them has been family. And, the story of your dad is moving. But I want to go back to and remind you perhaps of our first encounter. What also was an encounter that involved your family. I mean, you always seem to bring that back to the forefront, which really speaks to your core values, which is awesome. And it's kind of what I try to bring to the table. Yeah, I've had 22 years of experience in financial planning and investment management, but you know what? When it comes down to it, what Perfect Day is about is having that core values overlay of our values, connecting
Absolutely.
our values to our money. And for me and for you clearly too, it's about family, and so I think that's awesome. But our first conversation, I love this. We did the Perfect Day workshop last fall here in Charleston, and I put together a contribution panel, a star-studded cast, which was incredible, and it also included one Jamie Hough. And let me just tell you, Jamie didn't know me from Tom's House Cat. And
I had no idea you were virtually family.
what's
We
that?
haven't even talked about this today, that you're virtually family. You're related to
I
my
for-
wife's aunt.
I forgot about that.
That's crazy.
And so the family thread continues.
Yeah.
So yes, well, we're all related somehow, right?
Exactly.
But with that, you did not know who I was, and the giver that you are, again, back to values, Jamie was all over the press and all over social media because of his giving heart and how much you contribute. And we were in the midst of Hurricanes Irma and Harvey, and they had actually passed, but it was all over the media about how you had hooked up your boat and your trailer and had to go down and help people during Irma and Harvey, from floods and from devastation and from hunger and from death and dying and destruction, really. And Jamie had this story that was viral, and so not knowing Jamie and knowing it was a great story, I said this would be a great person to have on our contribution panel. So I think I Facebook messaged you and I said, so there's a plug for Dig and
technology,
tech. Yeah. Is that I said, you don't know me, but I'm putting together a panel and, could we have a conversation? We've got a few Facebook friends in common, and I was trying to juice it up. Jamie immediately responded back, yes, let's talk, sure thing. And I thought, oh my gosh, here's this famous guy who's gone viral with just an amazing story of huge heart and just wanting to help people who were just super troubled by, Irma and Harvey. And we had a conversation, and I said, why are we having this conversation? Why are you saying yes? And you shared with me a story. I don't know if you remember it, but you shared with me a story about, it was either your mom or your dad said to you about a funeral and what you do when someone dies. Do you remember that conversation?
I do.
Will you share it with us?
Yeah, I mean, if you ever go to somebody's house after a funeral, which 9 times out of 10, if you're close with them or their family, you're going to go to their house. And people always want to say, what can we do to help? And my parents told me a long time ago, instead of asking what you can do to help, just go do something. Whether it's dishes, cooking, mow the grass, bring the mail in. Any little thing helps when people are in a time of need, and the last thing they want to do is have to delegate. So when the whole thing happened with Harvey, I didn't anticipate going to Texas, and I've said that from the start. And it's unfortunate that I didn't anticipate it, because I feel like as big a job as we took on and as big a job as we did, I still feel like I could have done more had I anticipated going. It absolutely changed my life for the better, without a doubt. I mean, it puts things in perspective. When you see how people live and you see the cards they're dealt, it's one thing to help people that aren't willing to help themselves, but to actually get thrown into a situation with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people that cannot help themselves physically, emotionally, monetarily. It's an amazing thing how it instantly puts things in perspective with regards to your own life. And so I wasn't planning on going to Texas. I was just going to gather a bunch of goods, put somebody in a U-Haul, and send them to Texas. And one of our friends' moms on Facebook, I'll never forget it, because she started the whole entire chain of events. She said, you should go. And I said, I don't really have the money to go. We're getting to the end of my busy season. I need to rat hole money for the winter. And she said, well, I'll pitch in the first $200 for gas. And she said, what's your PayPal? And so I told her on that thread what the PayPal was. And we went to Triangle Char and Bar to collect goods. And I said, we'll be there for 2 or 3 hours. Y'all just bring whatever. 45 minutes, the truck was full, the trailer was full.
I had friends who came and brought you stuff.
It was crazy.
Everyone knew about what Jamie was doing.
It was nuts.
Awesome.
And we looked, after about 2 hours, we looked in the PayPal account, and there was $5,000. I was like, I looked at my wife, I said, I'm going to have to go to Texas. I mean, I can't just throw $5,000 in a U-Haul with somebody and expect it to get put in the right hands.
So the question now, and we're going to have to go to a break in a second, so give us a snippet and or think about it, because this is a big question. But what I think listeners want to know is and we've talked about this in other podcasts, which is the man in the arena. Like what is the difference? Like what made you that person who said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the dude who goes and loads up a truck. What's the difference between you and somebody else that actually takes that step and says, I'm going to do it, I have to do something?
Well, everybody's got there's a speed bump for everybody. There's a brick wall for everybody, and you got to get past that. It was easier for me, I think, because I've been to that area a lot. I have a lot of folks in that area that I'm friends with, a lot of support in that area. And the support group here and the network of people that I have here, I couldn't have done any of it. And I didn't do anything but drive the car or drive the truck and drive the boat and then put the money into the people's hands that needed it instead of it going to some organization and being misappropriated or even, we made sure that the money got where it needed to be. From giving moms, when we'd pick them up in their boats with 1 or 2 kids, give them $100 per kid plus a couple hundred for themselves, then we would teach them how to go to the shelter with 1,000 people or 2,000 people, take the kids to the bathroom, feed them individually in the bathroom so that people don't know you have food. Here's where you need to hide the money in different places so that people don't know you have any money with you.
Practical tips. That's
exactly. And
but
people would turn to us and say, well, I have an ATM. I'm like, darling, the power's not going to be on here for 3 weeks. And they were just dumbfounded. They were like, wait, I didn't even think of that.
But you, respectfully, you've diverted from the true question, which is what made you that person that said...
I didn't have that wall.
You didn't have the brick wall.
I didn't have that wall, which is I don't know anybody there. I don't know where to go. I don't have enough money to go. And that's where I was going with my comment was the people here made it possible for me to go because they're the ones that put the money in the account. They're the ones that made it possible for us to burn the fuel to get there, to buy gas, to put in all the different boats for the Cajun Navy. I mean, we were rifling out $500 at a time through Venmo and PayPal to different Cajun Navy boat drivers so that they could get fuel because we're all having to stay an hour outside of where the damage was.
Sure.
So my brick wall was eliminated because of the help from everybody else, from having a support network.
Well, obviously, being humble is one of your core values because there are plenty of people here in Charleston who have checkbooks big enough to say, I'm going to go down to Harvey, and they didn't do it. So with that...
That might not have been their wall, though.
That might not have been their wall. So fair enough. Thank you. We're here with Jamie Hough of the Chef Redneck and Redfish Mafia. We're going to go to break. Thank you so much for being here live on Perfect Day Podcast, here live at Dig South. Back at you soon. A perfect day is far from being about perfection. At the root of a perfect day is gratitude, even for life's mistakes. You've got the book, now get the tools. Join me for this exclusive webinar where I will teach you how to create more perfect days in your life. Welcome back to the Perfect Day Podcast. We are live at Dig South with Jamie Hough, who is the Chef Redneck and owner and multipreneur, fisherman extraordinaire, and apparel entrepreneur of the Redfish Mafia. When reviewing, he's also a comedian and he's also a major giver. I mean, he's just a giver extraordinaire. I think it was funny because on his, we send out a little interview form for our podcast to say, really our listeners are wanting to hear about tips and strategies, about successes, about their businesses. And when you have a multipreneur, you're really wanting to hear, how do you balance it all? How do you do it? And I mean, Jamie's response was, I'm horrible at all of those things, successes and strategies. And you're very humble. We've already determined that. But Jamie says, I'm always stretched on time and I always have too much going on. And I think y'all should really have me on the podcast on how not to be an episode. So, add comedian to his repertoire. And you know what I think that speaks to, and this is what we were talking about on break, is that you, quote unquote, do things. I just did the air quotes to the listeners. You do things. And that speaks so loudly to me because it's so perfect day mantra. I mean, perfect day is about today. It's about saying yes today because we don't have a tomorrow that's guaranteed. So that's why you might be a little short on time. And, it also speaks to, people sort of criticize me with my 411, which is my framework for helping people have more perfect days. You need no help with that.
I doubt
so it sounds like you and Liza and your awesome family of amazing pets. I can't wait to talk about pets because we've got a good story coming up here in a second. But yeah, so people criticize me for, being up at 5:30 in the morning and doing 411 lives. Well, you do things and you can sleep when you're dead and you can work when you're dead, I guess.
Einstein slept 45 minutes at a time.
Okay, I'm not willing to do that. Not willing to do that one. But good factoid. So, I know you have a story about when a phone rang, and what I love is that you've shared with me what a perfect day. I'm just gonna put this pressure on you. Today is 4/27/2018. 4/27/2019. You are going to be well into having written a book.
I hope so.
And the title of such is Harvey.
It is, but the picture, ideally, will be a picture of the three-legged dog we brought back from Harvey.
And I don't know if those of you who do or don't know me, but I've owned 2 three-legged dogs, and it's just this thing. You know, if you have a three-legged dog, you grow these bonds with people. But tell us about the story of Harvey. It obviously, for those who have been listening, you may glean that it goes back to you going down to Texas back during Harvey, which was in the fall of 2017. And I think the story is so near and dear to you that A, you've taken the time to document it, and B, this is the opener to your book. So do you mind sharing?
No, not at all. One of the reasons I wrote this, I didn't know that I was going to write a book. We actually got a lot of criticism for putting any of it on social media. There was a lot of people said that we did it for glory. We were trying to do it for fame. We were trying to have our 5 minutes and all that. We literally put everything on Facebook just to get the contributions and donations to have more money to spread. And it wound up being $32,000 over the course of a week. So that being said, I sat down one day.
Okay, let me interrupt you there and say it may have been $32,000, but you gave so much more than that.
Absolutely.
I mean, you saved people's lives,
Absolutely.
and you also saved dogs' lives.
But I sat down to write this because I wanted people to know exactly why we did it, and it became so heartfelt when I was writing it that I thought to myself, I want to write a book about the experience because I think other people need to experience.
Well, now you have to because you've
like
spoken it.
Yes.
So it will be true.
Right. I'll be a liar if I don't write it.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read a little excerpt. This is what I would like the book to open with. We didn't do it for Facebook fame or notoriety, not for news interviews or the thank yous and high fives when we got home. We didn't care if we messed up the boat or the truck or the chainsaws or the propellers. Yamahas are material, Fords and Chevys, material. Boots and waders, all material. We did it because the lump in our throats kept getting bigger. That gut feeling was eaten away from the inside, because the heart will never forgive you if you don't go to help. I get emotional every time I try to read this. Since I turned 40, I cried everything. It's not what heroes do. It's what men do. It's what Americans do. They get up, they go, they help. We went to help if for no other reason. Our hearts were pure, and they are pure. We didn't stop and enjoy a football game on the way. We didn't stop and play blackjack or eat at a badass meal on the way. We stopped and bought stuff to feed people. We stopped and bought things to protect ourselves and keep those we rescued safe all the way to the shelters. And we drove through the night and a day and part of another night, not knowing what awaited us. Eager to get started, but so tired we must rest. We have to rest. As the Cajun Navy channel rang out with a call for help, and then another and another, we sank our boots in and we got to work. We did rest for a half hour or so. As the night settled and began the uphill climb to dawn, I remember looking at my phone in a bewilderment as it rang. It was 3:33, and I was so tired I didn't know where I was. I answered. Crying hysterically, she yelled out an address. What city? I said. Katy, Texas, she cried. Where's Katy, Texas? I thought. According to the map, it's 3.5 hours away and the roads are closed. I'm sure she could hear my shaky voice as I had to tell her I couldn't get there and the roads were closed. We didn't come all this way to say I can't help you. All I heard as I hung up was, please hurry. It was crystal clear at that moment while we were there. Not to talk to the news stations or get in the paper to show off our boat or truck or to drink beer and ride around and bullshit. Not to put up Instagram and Facebook posts of my cool truck on a flooded street just for likes or views. We were going to save lives. That's why we got off the couch, dropped our jobs, dropped our families, and got in the truck. And once we saved lives, we were going to feed souls. And then we were going to hug our people when we got home. Sorry. Every time I'm with you, I cry.
Thank you. No, thank you.
We couldn't get to the lady in Katy, Texas, and we couldn't get to some others that were separated from us by closed roads. But we could relay the messages to Bobby Miller so he could put the right people on it, and he did. And 27 more people were saved that day because of it. Sally woke up. We need to go and save some more people that need our help. And we did. And we'll be there next time and the time after that. I know that 180 more people made it out that day because of me and Todd McKellar and Sally Durlack and TJ Cheek. It doesn't matter if it was 100 or if it was 500 or if it was 1. It wasn't enough. It'll never be enough. We put a dent in it, but it still wasn't enough. To whomever anonymously sent me this flag, you have no idea how much it means to me. Thank you. All the thank yous and high fives. This flag won't fade. It'll be an everyday reminder to the resilience of Cajun people and the fact that when they call for help, they really need it. And you can bet your ass this redneck will be there with bells on every time. And so the flag is actually the Acadiana flag of Louisiana that the Spaniards gave to them. So.
And someone sent that to you anonymously.
Anonymously.
That is awesome.
And the pig chewed it up, and so I got on the internet and bought another one.
Okay. Okay. Not a perfect day when the pig eats your favorite flag.
It's still kind of funny, though, that she would eat the flag. You know, it's my fault for not hanging it up, you know, immediately. But
I can't tell you how much it means to me, and I know the listeners, and the listeners aren't in front of you, but I know they can hear it. I know they can hear the vulnerability and just the authenticity of what it feels like, the pain, and yet I know there's also joy in there of what you were able to do and all the lives you were able to save.
Absolutely.
And affect. And so that's what I meant when I said it wasn't about $32,000.
No.
Because it was so much more than that.
I don't think people understand when a military guy says, never leave a man behind. I don't think they understand exactly what it feels like to know that you could have done more and that you could have saved somebody else. And hopefully that's the only time in my life I'll ever feel that. But it definitely is a personal letdown. Even though you know you did all you could, you just feel like there was one more trip you could have made or one more thing you could have done.
Well, I love that that's the lens you have. And I know from prior stories that again, back to family, as you got this from your family, they gave you this foundation and roots of giving back. And so I think it's a beautiful story. And I thank you so much for sharing. I mean, beyond me thinking it's a beautiful story, I know you've gotten the Jefferson Award for contribution efforts resulting around all your efforts at Harvey. And I have to share with you personally, I don't know how much you realize that it affected me when you served on the contribution panel, and I shared with you how horrible I felt during Irma and Harvey because I had just bought this new Shasta, and I was staring at this new Shasta, and I've got 2 generators, and I've got, resources where I could go, and I'm a doer. I want to go and do things. And I said to you, I looked in your eyes and I said, and I just couldn't get over the fact that here I was, I'd found myself, a single woman. My parents live on my property, 2, girls, 10 or 12 and 14 at the time. And I couldn't go. And there was this thing, I was stuck, and I felt horrible. So again, that's kind of why I went back to you with that question of what makes you the one who actually went and did? And you looked back at me and you said, you weren't supposed to go. You were the one who was supposed to be at home, supporting your family with your girls on your farm and holding down, because I kind of am in charge of all the animals and people who leave our area, leave their horses, and I'm there, and we've got rain and shine across the street.
And little did you know you were having to prepare for a hurricane that was coming here a week and a half later.
And that's correct, and I forget this. But there was something about me that said, I can't just leave. I can't leave my kids, and nor can they really go with me. And you made me feel better about that. But further, it's pushed me to become a part of an organization that can take me to a disaster area that's not happening in my own hometown.
That's
and
great.
So that's what I think the switch was for me, is that it sort of pushed me to okay, when we're in crisis mode, I've got a farm to hold down and a family to protect and take care of, so I need to be there, and you gave me that permission. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And, I want to really push you in these endeavors about the book. You are living the perfect day.
That's what I need. I need somebody to push me.
It's such an inspiration. Well, I will. And 411 Live will. 411 will give you the framework for getting 10 minutes on your book done every day. It's the Pringle effect. It's like if I told you to do 1 push-up. Do 1 push-up. Are you going to do 1?
No.
No, you're not going to do 1. So write for 10 minutes every morning before 11 a.m. Done. I'm going to check in with you on that one. So with that, I really don't know how to express my gratitude for you sharing your story, and I look forward to the day that you can sign a book for me that's titled Harvey.
Absolutely. That'd make my day.
Jamie
it would
Hough,
be the perfect day.
Thank you so much. It would be the perfect day.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Until next time, Make it a perfect day.